All right, let's jump right into this. Have you ever actually stopped and wondered how an entire society could be programmed to just completely ignore their own eyes and ears? Well, today we're doing a focused breakdown of one of the most chillingly effective systems of absolute control ever put to paper. We are decoding George Orwell's absolute classic, 1984. But look, rather than just giving you a basic plot summary, because we all know the gist of the story, right? We are going to dig deep into the precise psychological and physical mechanisms that the ruling party uses to completely dominate human life. We're going to explore exactly how they manage to build a world where reality itself is pliable.
To really immerse ourselves in this oppressive reality, you just have to consider the party's three core slogans. These words are literally plastered everywhere in the nation of Oceania. We're talking on giant white pyramids, stamped on coins, staring down from posters, and they are completely, unapologetically contradictory. I mean, how can war be peace? How can ignorance possibly be a strength? Setting this ominous tone right from the jump forces the citizens to accept impossible logic. It's essentially the party saying, if the state says two total opposites are true, well then they're true. End of discussion. And that lingering sense of inescapable wrongness, it bleeds right into the opening line of the book when we meet our protagonist, Winston Smith. Notice how even the most fundamental measurement of reality, time itself, just feels slightly off. A clock striking 13 immediately signals to us that the standard, comfortable rules of our world do not apply here. It creates this heavy atmosphere of unease before the story even really kicks off. Part 1. The World of Oceania, an atmosphere of constant surveillance. Okay, let's actually look at the four ministries that run Oceania. And you have to note the terrifying contradictions between what they're called and what they actually do. The Ministry of Truth, they handle lies and propaganda. The Ministry of Peace, they manage perpetual, unending war. The Ministry of Plenty is in charge of rationing and starvation. And the Ministry of Love, yeah, that one is a terrifying, windowless fortress surrounded by barbed wire and machine gun nests where law and order are brutally enforced. It's this dark, almost comical irony, but it serves a highly lethal purpose. It masks brutal oppression as benevolence. So in Oceania, you are watched constantly through these two-way televisions called telescreens. You never know if you're being monitored at any given second, so you literally have to assume you are always being watched. The physical surveillance is so intense that even an involuntary nervous twitch or maybe a tiny look of disbelief when a military victory is announced is a punishable offense. They actually call it face crime. Just imagine living in a world where your own nervous system is your worst enemy. One tiny, uncontrollable change of expression can literally seal your fate.
Part 2. The 2 minutes hate, psychological conditioning.
Now, every single day at 11 a.m., the workers are required to gather for the 2 minutes hate. And it is a visceral, step-by-step escalation. First, the face of Emmanuel Goldstein, the ultimate traitor, flashes in front of the crowd, bleeding like a sheep. Within seconds, the audience just erupts. It's an uncontrollable frenzy of fear and undirected violence. People are screaming, they're throwing things, and then Big Brother's calm, powerful face appears, essentially rescuing them from their own terror. This wave of immediate relief triggers this slow, deeply hypnotic chanting. It's not just a meeting, it's a deliberate daily drowning of human consciousness. And this extreme psychological manipulation perfectly illustrates a foundational concept of the party: doublethink. Citizens have to effortlessly switch their extreme, violent hatred for an enemy into total, loving devotion for Big Brother at a moment's notice. And here is the kicker, all while actively forgetting that they ever performed this mental gymnastics in the first place. It is the ultimate subtlety. You are consciously inducing unconsciousness and then becoming completely unaware of the act of self-hypnosis you just performed.
Part 3. Rewriting the past, the Ministry of Truth.
Let's break down Winston's actual daily workflow because it's a literal, highly efficient process of continuous historical falsification. He gets a slip of paper via a pneumatic tube telling him to alter a past news article. He dictates the new, fake version into a device called a speakwrite, clips it to the original, and then just drops the original into a memory hole. This is a slit in the wall leading straight to massive furnaces. The past isn't just altered here, it's completely scraped clean and reinscribed on a daily basis. To really grasp the absurdity of these lies, let's look at a practical example.
Get this. In February, the Ministry of Plenty issued a categorical pledge that the chocolate ration would not be reduced. Okay? But just a short time later, it's announced the ration is reduced to 20 grams. So Winston's job is to go back and rewrite that past promise, changing it into a warning that rations would be reduced. And the public? They mindlessly accept this total contradiction within 24 hours, even cheering Big Brother for giving them more chocolate. It's a chilling reminder of how incredibly easily public memory can be overwritten when people just stop questioning the source.
But history doesn't just change for chocolate rations, right? It changes for actual human beings. Disgraced political figures like Comrade Withers are deleted from history entirely. They become an unperson. To cover up Withers' existence in an old speech, Winston literally fabricates an entirely fake hero named Comrade Ogilvy to take his place in the historical record. Just let that sink in. A man who never existed is suddenly just as real as Julius Caesar. Part 4. The destruction of words. Narrowing the range of thought. What's truly terrifying about the party's agenda is how they are actively destroying language itself. Instead of having a rich vocabulary with adjectives like excellent or splendid, Newspeak aggressively shrinks the language down. Good simply becomes plus good or double plus good. By systematically wiping out synonyms and antonyms, they are quite literally shrinking the human capacity for expression. Newspeak is the only language in the world whose vocabulary gets smaller every single year. Winston actually has this conversation with a philologist named Syme, who points out that the whole aim of Newspeak is to narrow the range of thought. The idea is that eventually, thought crime will be literally impossible because there just won't be any words left to express a rebellious idea. Syme's chilling realization is that orthodoxy doesn't mean thinking the right things. Actually, scratch that. It means not thinking at all. The ultimate goal of the party is to create an automated state of unconsciousness. Part 5. The death of humanity, severing human bonds. Consider this youth group known as the Spies. Winston's neighbor, Mrs. Parsons, is a prime example of this absolute horror show. She lives in absolute terror of her own children. These kids are literally trained with ear trumpets to listen through keyholes, just eager to turn their own parents over to the thought police. All that natural private family loyalty is violently redirected into an outward loyalty to Big Brother. Basic family bonds, they're treated as a direct threat to the state's monopoly on affection. And it goes further. Even romantic love is systematically destroyed. The party's undeclared purpose is to remove all pleasure from physical intimacy. Winston recalls his bleak, totally loveless marriage to his wife, Catherine, whose mind was just completely saturated with party slogans. To her, intimacy wasn't about love or affection or human connection. It was this rigid, uncomfortable act that she explicitly and terrifyingly referred to as our duty to the party. Because private love fosters private loyalties, it absolutely must be eradicated. Part 6. The ultimate crime. Thought crime. If you rebel in this world, there is no public trial. There's no dramatic courtroom scene. There are just terrifying nighttime arrests where people simply disappear from existence entirely. They are vaporized. Every single record of everything you have ever done is wiped out. You are not just killed, your one-time existence is denied, actively erased, and then permanently forgotten by everyone you ever knew. Yet despite knowing all of this for a fact, Winston buys a blank, creamy paper diary. Hidden in a tiny alcove just out of sight of his telescreen, he begins to write. And suddenly, in a state of sheer uncontrollable panic, he looks down and realizes his pen has been automatically tracing a fatal phrase, "Down with Big Brother," just over and over again. He knows in this exact moment that his fate is sealed. The sheer terror of his subconscious rebellion spilling out onto the page is absolute. Winston realizes that, honestly, whether he physically wrote those words down or not didn't really matter. Simply having the independent rebellious thought constituted the ultimate offense. In this dystopia, thought crime doesn't just lead to a death sentence, it is death. From the very second he forms an unorthodox thought, he recognizes himself as a dead man walking. So we'll wrap up our explainer today with a highly provocative question. It's something you really need to chew on. If an authority can successfully rewrite your past, redefine your language, and force you to accept impossible logic, how can freedom possibly exist? Orwell's masterpiece doesn't just tell a sad story. It shows us the terrifying mechanics of total control and reminds us why safeguarding our language and our shared history is so absolutely vital. Thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown of 1984, and I'll leave you to reflect deeply on the sheer fragility of truth.